welcome to a new pattern, a Tunisian Crochet Along, a TCAL. So just like any crochet alongs, any knit alongs, stitch alongs, anything like that, we'll be doing this face cloth in this video and crocheting along with me, Tunisian crocheting along with me. It would be really, really long if I kept absolutely everything in. So there is a bit of editing of cutting out of just me doing the same thing over and over again. So you haven't got to sit there and watch me do absolutely everything. But I will explain everything of how to make this. It is a rainbow Tunisian crochet face cloth for I mainly come up with the idea of doing it to do a different way of supporting key workers during this COVID third lockdown stage that we're starting to come out of now, but just as a way to show appreciation. So if you wanted to make this for yourself and you are a key worker, or you just like the colours, or you wanted to give it to a key worker as a little something, maybe going in a pamper basket for them with some smellies and some soaps, candles, that would be really nice as well. Because it is all made of cotton, it's really good for using as a face cloth, and obviously it can be bunged in the wash and used time and time again. None of the one-time use things. So let's crack on with what we're going to need for cotton, yarn, which colours, the hook and all the accessories and everything that we need. We'll crack on with that and then we will get started with making it. So then let's run through what we are going to be using for this pattern. We've got our yarn obviously and our hook. I've also got a pair of scissors for cutting the yarn. These are thread scissors, not just standard scissors, but you can use standard scissors if you need to. I've also got a couple of different stitch markers if you need them. You shouldn't need them as you're going along because there's not any points that you need to mark off. But if you're pausing your work in between doing bits, then sometimes I put a stitch marker in so I don't accidentally unwind my work. And I've just got a couple of different ones, typical plastic ones, which are quite nice because of the eyelet in it is nice and big. So it means that it's good for like chunky yarn because it fits in. And then I've also got my giraffe one, which is what I tend to use a lot because I made them myself and I love giraffes. But the eyelet on this hook bit is a lot smaller than this one, so you couldn't fit really chunky threads into this one like you could on this one. But it doesn't matter which ones you use, whichever ones you prefer to use is okay. It's just that these are the ones I have. I also have a tape measure that I'll be using. You don't have to. I just like to double check that I got my tension correctly, so the right amount of stitches for the right size. As sometimes you do just naturally stitch a bit tighter than other days or looser than other days. So it's up to you if you want to use a tape measure to get the size correct, but it's not essential. If you end up with a slightly smaller one or a slightly bigger washcloth, it doesn't matter. Obviously, if you are going a lot bigger and intentionally going bigger, then adjust how much yarn you're going to use over going smaller. So obviously if you're going smaller, if you've got this amount of yarn, then you'll have plenty. Going the other way, you'll obviously need some more, but it's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to run through the yarn that I've got here. Is sheep's Katona, which is 100% cotton, which is a lot better for washcloths and things because it's more hygienic, it washes well, and it washes you well too, which is why typically washcloths and towels and things like that will be cotton. So I've got red and orange, yellow, blue, green, pink and a purple one. These are all 10 grams apart from the orange, which is a 25-gram yarn ball, because I couldn't get hold of it in the smaller size like I wanted to. So it doesn't need to be anything bigger than a 10 gram, it's just purely what I could get hold of at the time. So where I got it from was a company called Wool Warehouse in the UK. If you're in the UK, I'll pop a link down in the description below. You can go there and have a look at the stuff. They're really great. They're Stuff comes in bags, really nice bags as well, so there's the plastic with the packaging and things, and they're handy to store your yarn in afterwards and your projects in while you're working on it too, which is what I do, which is why it's sat here, because the yarn will go in it in a minute. And these ones from there, these smaller ones cost it's like 49p, so 50p basically for the smaller ones, and this one ended up costing me £1. It was 99p. So I'm trying to do this so we can still keep our crafting, we can still get crafting during this pandemic, but keeping the costs as a minimal for people that haven't got a lot of money but still want to be creative. So we're going to jump in and start on our first colour, which is purple, with our 3mm hook we've got there. So I will catch you in a second and we'll get started. So, okay, so now we have done the chains that we required. I've just popped it here against the tape measure so you can see. Starting from here, which is where my first bit is, that's just my tail. It starts here and then my work comes up. This is the edge of my work here, and if I don't, I'm not going to stretch it, but if I just lay it flat, it comes to 31 centimeters. So it's about 30.5, 31 centimeters you want to get to as we're working into it. It will take that tiny edge off there in a second. So move that one to one side. Now we don't need that one. We're going to start with our foundation row, which is consists of a forward pass and a return pass, which you will do for every single row, but the foundation setup row is slightly different to how you will work the rest of the pattern with the simple stitch. So having your hook inserted in to your end loop like so, you are going to take your hook and insert it into the second chain from your hook. So here I have got, let me get this the right way around, where I've taken it out the wrong way. There we go. Let me just straighten myself out. Where you have your first chain, that corresponds to the loop that's already on your hook. So we're not going to go into that one, we're going to go into our next one. Insert our hook, yarn over and pull through. Now you have 2 loops on your hook. Now is where with traditional crochet you would complete your stitch by either pulling straight through again, that'd be a slip, or yarning over and going through both loops. Whatever stitch it was, that's normally how you do, and you'd always get back to having 1 loop on your hook. With Tunisian crochet for your forward pass, it means that you are picking up your stitches on your forward pass and getting rid of your stitches on your return pass. So we will stop there for this part, and we don't finish anything off. We go on to our next chain, insert our hook, yarn over and pull through, and now we have 3 loops on our hook. And we're going to keep doing this where we insert into the next stitch, into the next chain, yarn over and pull through, and we're going to keep doing that all the way along, picking up every single one. You'll notice that I hold mine rather than having it on top of my work like this, I keep mine at an angle, so I'm keeping my stitches loose rather than being tight, because when you do a return pass you're going back through these and you don't want them really tight, because otherwise you'll struggle to pull your hook back through. So that's why one of the reasons why you want to work fairly loosely on Tunisian crochet. So we're going to go on to our next one, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, and we're going to keep doing this, like I said, until we get to the very end. So I will meet you there in a minute. And now we have done all the way to the end, and this is how your work ends up looking like as you're going along. So just continue doing that until you are left with one loop on your hook. So I thought I'd join back on when I get to these last 2 stitches, because some of you may get to the end thinking, well, getting to 1 stitch, I've got these 2. You know, do I include this one that I started with? Is this then theoretically classed as 1 loop on there? So just to clear this up, this isn't how we end. This is classed as having 2 loops on. So you want to do this one final time. So yarn over and pulls through those last 2 to create that end there. And then this is how it looks. And that is your foundation setup, ready to start your pattern. And now you'll notice that if I get the tape measure back out and pop this one down, you'll notice that where you've gone into that second chain, you've lost a stitch. And as you have worked, this now has shortened down a little bit. So mine has gone to just under the 30 centimeters. You'll see that you have lost a little bit of work there. And that is completely normal as you work, and when you do the blocking at the end, this will sit at 30 centimeters, as you can see there. Sits on at the 30. This edge here is where the edge of my work is, so you'll see once this is blocked, this will sit at 30 centimeters in size. Okay, so now we've got that, we can move on to starting our pattern officially with the simple stitch, as it's worked basically under the same principle of you picking up your stitches, but as you're not going into your chain anymore, you're going into these posts. I'll show you how to do the Tunisian simple stitch, and we will start officially onto our first row and continue on with our pattern. Okay, so now on to officially what is the first row of the pattern, doing the Tunisian simple stitch. You may have a bit of experience if you've done this before. This is quite a basic stitch for Tunisian crocheting. If not, I'll run through it with you, but we're going to stick with the purple colour. We're doing a few rows of this colour before we change to the next one, so I will show you how to do this one if you're not entirely sure. So on here, from your foundation, you would have made these posts, so you can see that these posts sit vertically along your work, all the way along. And you've got this one right at the beginning, and you don't want to go into this one because you've already got the loop on your hook, which is equivalent to this stitch. So you're going to go into what is the second one along here, and you're just going to put your hook into your loop, into your front post, yarn over and pull through. And you're going to do that going all the way along. So like the last row, when you went into the chain, on this one you are going into the front post instead. So it's basically the same thing, just going into a slightly different space. So just going to yarn over, pull through, just going into each post as you work your way along and going right to the end. And when you get to the end, I'll show you how I do the last one. Some people do it slightly differently. I find the way that I do it makes it quite nice and neat and tidy, keeps the edge quite straight. So I'll continue along and I will catch you at the end. So I am down to my last 2. Got this vertical one and then the one on the very end to do. So I'll do my loop in and yarn over. Now I'm left with just the one on the very end, because if you stopped here then your work would go inwards each time. So you've got to go right up to the very end And what I do is I turn it sideways, and you should be able to see these two here. So you've got one here and one here that slightly cross over each other. I'm going to go into both of those like so. Some people only go into that front one like you would do for a front post, like we have been doing the whole way along, but I go into both. I find it makes it nice and tidy. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through, and that is our forward pass for our first row completed. Now we're going to do our return pass as we did before, where we are going to chain, so yarn over and pull through one loop, and then we yarn over and pull through 2 loops for the rest of it until we are left with 1 loop on our hook. The exact same as last time, where we just yarn over and pull through 2 all the way back along our work, just like before. So I will catch you at the end when we are back to 1 loop on our hooks, and our first row will be completed, and I will run through the next stage after that. So I'll catch you in a minute. Okay, so now we are back to having our 1 loop on our hook. This is what it looks like. So you will see that we've got these vertical posts going up our work and sit like this, and the top row, you'll notice, will look like it's got some gaps in, whereas the bottom row looks quite full. And that is because as you work along on our next row, we'll be working into these posts again, so it'll be filling in those gaps as we go along, and naturally the work will start to curl up because we're always working into the front of it. It's completely natural, but you should have something that looks a little bit like this now, going all the way along. Wonderful. So let's move on to our next row. So just like last time, we don't go into this very first stitch here. This is what is on your hook. This represents the loop that's already on your hook. So you go into the next one along. So your first, theoretically, it's your second one, and we just insert hook, yarn over and pull through the exact same as we've just done, and we do that going all the way along just like last time. It's the exact same as last time, just going all the way along. So I will catch you back at the end of the row again once you've inserted your hook, yarn over, pull through every single one on your row. Okay, so just like, okay, so we have now done another row. So I'll just take that one off the hook a little bit so you're able to see what this is starting to look like now. So our work is coming along where our first 2 rows, so effectively our foundation setup and our first row is all nice and chunky and filled in. There's no gaps or anything in it, and then we've got our second or third row, depends how you like to look at it, that we've just completed there, looking like so. So that's how this is coming along so far. Come along nicely. So on to the start of this next row. We're still continuing in the purple because we want to get it up to just over 4 centimeters in height to even out the colours. So just over 4 centimeters for each of the 7 colours will make it about 30 centimeters. You can't, I mean, you could get it absolutely bang on if you really measured it, but it's just going to be a rough 30 centimeters because you can't change the height of a stitch really unless you make it like really tight or really loose, but then your tension's going to be off that way. So it's just over 4 centimeters. It's like 4.2 centimeters for each colour, so we're just going to keep working our way up this height in this colour until we get to our desired height that we want. So same as before, not into the first one, into the second one, and we're continuing on as we have been with this simple stitch, just inserting our hook into each post all the way along on our forward pass, and then releasing those stitches on our return pass. So once again, I will do this one and speed it up a little bit for you, as hopefully by now we know what you are doing. If you're still unsure, slow it down, go back to a little bit earlier on in the video where you can see exactly what I'm doing. But otherwise I will catch you once I've done the forward and the return pass, because I feel like I've gone over it 100 times and I don't want to keep boring you with going over it, but you can start to see now these are all starting to line up nicely. So I will catch you once I have done the forward and the return pass. If that's another one done, now your work is starting to look like this. I am just going to grab a tape measure and just see where we are up to on our height, and we will go from there. Gets up to 2.5 centimetres, so about 1.5 centimetres to go. So we're over halfway with this colour, and we will carry on with our next row. We are going to do the same as what we've just done with the last one, where we do our Tunisian simple stitch, carrying on in our purple. So on, this is what this is looking like so far. Sorry, hitting my camera stand. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4 vertical columns going up at the minute. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we are just going to work on our 4th row officially, but our 5th row, if you like, as our foundation row. Depends if you class that as a row or not. So we're just going to insert our hook into the second one as normal and pick up each of these as we go along, just like we have been. Probably getting bored of hearing me saying this now, but we are just going to continue with our purple, going along like so. And same as before, I'll catch you once I've done the forward and the return pass in a minute. And there we have the end of our next row with the power of editing there. So you can really see now, if I pick this up, how much this is curving. It's almost like forming a tube here. You can see where it's starting to curve. Like I've said many times, this is completely natural. When you block it, that's how you can get it to flatten back down again. So I did just give this a quick measure as I was about halfway along. It's coming up now when I flatten this down and bring the tape measure to it. It's about 3 centimetres in height now, so we need 1 more centimetre, so it's probably about 2 more rows, I would say, and then we should be at the height that we want it to be. So starting on to our next row, just how we have done before, we're going to continue with our purple. As I mentioned, we need about another centimetre to get the height that we want in this colour. So once again, we are going to pick up our loops. I'm going to do some lovely editing to get rid of all the boring bits, and I will meet you back once I have done this row. That is another row now complete. I've just lined this up, back up with the tape measure so you can see. If I get that on the edge, that measures just under there's pretty much bang on 3.5 centimeters there. It comes up to here. So that is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots of the vertical bars. This is how it's starting to look. So 5 rows if you're not including your foundation row, or 6 rows if you class that as like row 1. Depends how you want to look at it, but this is how it should be starting to look. So just the same as before, we are going to carry on by inserting our hook into this second vertical post on our row, and every one from there on until you get right to the very end, finishing the end of how you prefer to finish it off, and then doing the return pass as per normal. So there are 7 of these vertical columns, 7 of these vertical rows, 6 rows if you like in the foundation row, however way you're looking at it. And I've just put it back up to the tape measure. So if I flatten this out and put it there, you can see that it comes to the 4 centimeters now. Pretty much perfect. So this is it for the purple colour. Because, like I said, we want about 4 centimeters per row that we're using, which is why I say you only need these small bits, because I've still got a little bit here. You know, it doesn't quite use up all of it. So we are going to go on to our next colour, and then I'm going to come back to the stitch that I've done, and what I'm going to do here, without getting too tangled up in it, there we go. When you're colour changing on the end and you come to your last one, rather than catching on the purple again, then the colour that you now want to change over to is what you're going to pull through ready. So I'm gonna just give that a little bit, so it's not really tight, it's not completely tight. As usual, we're not working really tight. It's just gonna have a little bit of a gap in it, and I'm going to do that one. So I've now changed to my pink, which is there. And what I like to do on the back is I just like to take the purple that I am cutting off. I leave quite a bit extra, because you can always cut it shorter. If you don't cut enough of a tail, then you can make it harder for yourself. So you don't need a long tail, because there's no like sewing pieces together, so you don't need a tail for sewing together. It is just ease of use. I cut a fairly long tail on mine, so mine's probably about 20 centimeters, 2 sides of the way along, and then I can get rid of the purple that I was using and pop that to one side. So now I take the end of what I was working, the purple that I was working, and the end that I'm not using on the pink. So this is the end of the pink, the end of the purple, and this one here is my working yarn. So obviously I don't want to be taking that, because I'm going to be needing that. And I like to, at this point, just secure. I'm not trying to pull too much, but I just like to secure a little knot. And when I weave the ends in, I try to weave back through this. When I sew these ends in, I try to sew back through it to pull it into the middle of the work, so you can't see it so much. But sometimes you can see a little bit. That's what I'm left with there. You can see a bit of this pink sitting here, and I'll try and work that into the pink that I'm just about to do, and then the purple end I'll work into the purple. So that's just holding that, so I know I can work safely knowing that my pink and purple tails ain't going to come undone just from a little gentle knot. If I just give that a little tug, you can feel that's sat there. And with this, we're going to start our first row of the pink. This is still working the same as the purple was. Inserting your hook into the stitch, into the second stitch, and then every stitch across into these front posts. We're still following the same pattern, we've just changed colour. So I will go, moving those tails out of the way, because I don't want to be working with those, going into the second stitch there, pulling up with my pink now, and doing that all the way along. And it depends when you change colour as to the effect that you'll get. So you can see here that we've finished our purple and we are starting on our pink. You can get a very like integrated colour change if you change your colour at the end of your forward pass before you do your return pass, because when you do your return pass, that will then be knotted into the middle of this, and you can get quite a cool effect with changing your colours halfway through the row rather than at the end or beginning, as you like, as we have done. So just like before, I'm just going to insert a hook into each of the front posts all the way along, and then do the return pass as normal, and I will join you back then to show you what it's like and go over the next stage or the next step of instructions. So I'll catch you in a minute. Now we have done the forward and the return pass in pink, I just wanted to quickly show you what it was like. So you'll see that this purple cuts off and then you start with your pink like so. If you had started your colour change on the return pass, you would have this pink streak coming along the purple rather than starting a new row like this. But we're keeping ours in clear sections, so we started our colour change at the beginning rather than halfway through the row. So this is what it's looking like so far. We are going to continue in the pink, doing these forward passes and return passes the exact same as we've been doing until we get to another 4 centimetres, so about 8 centimetres in total for our work, which is about 7 rows like we've done in the purple, and we're going to continue that in the pink until we get to about 8 centimetres, 4 centimetres in each colour, and I will join back with you once we are at that stage and ready to change to our next colour. Now we have finished the pink. Yours should look something a little bit like this, where you have, I have done roughly equal amounts. Keeping your attention, you should have about 7 rows of the pink as well. And as you can see on here, that this work is now measuring up to just literally, it's like 8.2 centimetres, which works out pretty much bang on where we want it to be for the colours that we've got. We'll make it up to 30 centimetres. So I have got to the end, and just like I did with the purple into the pink, I've changed the pink into a blue, which is what you can see here. Nice bright blue. Obviously your colours can be whatever shade, so you could do these like a pastel rainbow, you could do it really bright, really vivid. You could change up the colours if you like. So anyway, on to where we are up to. So that's me changing over there. Let me just grab my yarn. So yes, I have changed to the blue when I finished off my last stitch, like I did going from the purple to the pink. Before I completed my last stitch, I pulled through my new colour, which is what I have done here. So we are continuing on with our pattern where we insert our hook into the second of these front posts, and then we yarn over and pull through, and we do that all the way along for our forward pass, and then our return pass as normal. And we're going to do the same for this one, so we're going to add another 4 centimetres on this one, which would be about 7 rows if you're sticking with this about the same tension that I have got, or you want it to get to about 12 centimetres. So like I said, about 4 centimetres for each colour. So we are doing this all the way along, return pass as normal, and keep doing that for about 7 rows. And I will meet you back in a second when we change to our next colour. Now that we have finished the blue, we are up to about 12 centimetres, so we've got about 4 centimetres in each, which from my tension, if you're following along around the same tension, it'll be about 7 rows for each colour, and it should start to look a little bit like this now, starting to create our rainbow. So I have gone from the blue to the green now. I've done the same as I have done for the other 2 colours, and just tied it off slightly, left a bit of a tail for sewing in later, and changed the colour over how I have been doing. And we're going to continue on with what we have been doing with the blue, the pink and the purple, and we're going to continue that off with the green. Inserting our hook into the second post on our work, and yarn over, and then pulling through and doing that all the way across. Excuse me. So as with all the colours, I will put down the name of the shade that I'm using if you wanted to do the exact same shade of colour, because on the packets they just give you a number, they don't tell you like a name. So I'll write it all down, put links in the description below for you too. But you want to do what you have been and do another about 4 centimetres of this colour, so about another 7 rows in this colour, and I will catch you back when we change to our next colour. I'm just showing you on here now. I've finished all the green and I've got my colour yellow ready to start off with, but I just wanted to show you, this is what it's starting to look like. I've had to zoom out right out on my camera to get it all in, but if I lay it down to measure, it goes to just over a 16 centimetres, about 16.5 centimetres, stops just there. It's because each section is just tiny, it's like 4.1, 4.2 centimetres for each. So obviously keeping with my tension, I've done another 7 rows, but you should start to look a little bit like this now for your washcloth. And as you can see, the lower ones that the lower rows that you've done have started to should have started to kind of like line up and straighten out and neaten out a little bit. And this is how my edge looks when I do it like I do, picking up the 2 on the end, and then I start it so like my edges match, and that's how I prefer to do it with mine. Like I said, you get this curling because you're always working into the front, but the weight of it is starting to keep some of it flat. So if yours is all curly on the edges, that's absolutely fine. It's completely natural, like I've said before, and when it gets blocked, it will flatten out and get into a correct shape. So don't worry too much if it is slightly off from this, no, but it should start to look at something like this. Okay, so we are going to start with the next colour, which is yellow. So this is my yellow. It's like a lemonade-y yellow. And just like I have been doing, we are going to continue on with our insert and a hook into the second front post on our work, yarn over and pull through, and keep doing that all the way across, and then do your return pass as normal for about another 7 rows, or until you get to about 4 centimetres, same as you have been doing for the other colours. And then I'll meet you back here ready for the next colour. As you can see here, I've done just over 4 centimetres in this colour. For each one is just over 4 centimetres. So again, another 7 rows. I have changed over and got ready to this one, which is the orange for the next one. So it should be looking something like this now, as we're coming along. So we're going to carry on with our orange colour, another 4 centimetres, about 7 rows. I'll join you back then for the last colour after that. Now we have finished the orange one. This is how it will be starting to look. We've got the green, yellow and orange as the last one. We've also got a purple, pink and blue just off of camera that you can't see, just down here. And then we're on to our final colour, our 7th colour, which is our red. Same as all the others, the colour will be in the description below so you can get the exact shade if you're wanting to do these exact colours that I have picked on my one. So we're going to continue working how we have done the other ones for our last one, and when we get to the end I will join back on with you on the last row, go over just a couple of common questions that I get asked, and we'll finish it off and we'll have a look at the final thing all together. So I will catch you in a minute. So now we have finished our final colour, our red, I'm going to show you about casting off or binding off, depends what you want to call it. We do this rather than finish off here because, as you can see, the work is quite even, it's very filled in, and then the last one has these gaps in it, which you'll notice as you've been going along. And when you do your next row, you work those gaps. So you can see that that last row there here has quite a bit of a gap in, whereas these are nicely filled in. So we're just going to do our casting off or our binding off to essentially fill this gap in. It doesn't really add much height, it will add like a tiny bit on top, but it will finish off this bit so we don't have these gaps on the top edge. So this is what it is looking like now, with from purple going to pink, going to blue, green, yellow, orange, and then the red. So we're just going to finish this off, and this is really simple to do if you haven't done any casting off in Tunisian crochet before. I'll run through it with you now. So what you want to be doing, move these out of the way so you can see clearer, is where you were inserting your hook into the second front post, yarn over and pulling through and doing that all the way across. This is where you're going to pull through that first loop on your hook one more time. So you're almost like creating a chain at the top there. You're going to go into your next front post, yarn over, pull through, and do the same again and pull through that first loop on your hook. And you can see that is starting to almost like create a chain working across the top whilst filling this gap in here. So I'll do a couple more, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through that first loop on your hook again. And you're going to keep doing that all the way across. So if I get a couple more of them done, you will see how that starts to look. Done that one too tight. Okay, so you'll see here that we have finished off, like that gap isn't there compared to what's next to it. You see that's all got gaps in, and this is all nicely filled in, and then it's all created like a chain working our way across the top. So it starts to sit like that. So as I'm working my way across, I was just going to run through a few questions that I sometimes get asked, or what I've been particularly asked about
in relation with this one. So first of all, a lot of people ask what hooks I use for this, and what they think is like a good hook to use. Is there any ones better than others? The hook that I'm using here is actually just my cheap one that I got off of Amazon. I think I got a set of 10 of them for about £5. I really didn't pay much because I just wanted to give it a go before I invested in some expensive ones. I have got expensive crochet hooks, that's normal crochet hooks, like bamboo ones and things, but I honestly find that I just prefer using metal hooks. I find that my yarn always slides over it nicely, it doesn't snag, and it works well with my style of work, my tension that I use. So I prefer using metal ones. I'll put a link down in the description below to the set that I am using like this one out of, so you can see. So it's great if you're starting out, I think, and not wanting to spend a lot of money and you just want to give it a go and see if it's your sort of thing first. And that's basically why I got this set, was for that exact reason, just to see if I could do it and if it was something that really interested me, if I enjoyed it enough to really continue it on as a hobby, and then ended up being you know, making these videos. So that's what I really use. I've got a couple of other ones, flexible ones and things, really long ones, but these are my go-to ones. They're just my cheap ones because they work well for me and they're comfortable to use for me. But it's, if you're going to invest, then look for something that you think would work well for you. Everyone is different, so that's my advice on that one. I also get a lot of questions in general in asking why their work doesn't come out straight, and that can depend on a few different things. It could depend on the pattern that you're doing. Sometimes the pattern just doesn't come out straight and it's meant to be like that, and as the fibres relax, then it will straighten out again. Or as you block it, if it's designed to be blocked to get a certain shape at the end, then that can be why then. But most commonly it's people's tension, whether they're doing some parts too tight and some parts too loose, so you end up with like a wavy effect where some stitches are bigger than others, like height wise, and that shows in the work there. But it can also be, so that for your tension, it is just practice. My lines used to be the wobbliest thing ever when I first started, but it's just practice, getting into a flow of what works well for you. Just remembering that Tunisian crochet isn't normally done very tightly. You know, every time I'm doing this, I'm pulling up a bit to allow myself some room to work with. It's not done tightly, so just practice with it and you'll get there in the end. But it can also be, like I said at the beginning, when I was working down my edge, this edge looked like it would be really pulled over, and these vertical posts almost looked like, you know, they were forward slashes, they were going at a right wonky angle, because I was working on that bit and it was being pulled around like this. As I've worked my way up and it's relaxed and the fibres have relaxed, they've all gone straight again, and that edge has gone straight. And if it is slightly wobbly around the edge but your pattern is straight, don't worry too much about that, because like I've said before, you can block your work, and as you block it, you can set it so it sits straight again, and then it all relaxes and it sits to how you want it to be. So if it is a little bit, don't worry about it. You know, the joy of handmade stuff is that there sometimes is imperfections in things, and that just shows love and care and attention that, you know, someone's spent the time to do it. You know, it shows that it's not a machine that's done it. It is a real human being, and there was love put into it to make it. So don't worry too much. Practice and you'll get there in the end. And then I also have been asked whether this will be made or if it is available as a written pattern, because some people don't like following videos. So currently at the minute it isn't available. If you're watching this when I have released the video, currently it isn't available as a written pattern, but I am going to be writing it up to make it available. So it is coming, but I just really wanted to get this video out to you. So if you are one that watches videos, and that's probably why you are here, is because you watch videos for a pattern, then it was there and it was available and it was ready for everyone to use. But currently, time of making this, it isn't. If it is now available, it will be in the link to getting the written pattern will be in the description below. So have a quick look down there. If you're not looking at this video when I've released it, then have a quick look in the description, because all the information will be down there if it is. So I have now got to the end, but as you can see, I've got this last one. So the same as I have been doing, I'm going to insert into both of them and do just as I had been. That doesn't change on the end one. I just wanted to show you that it doesn't change on the end. And this is what I've finished with. So you can see that this now, there's no gap in it, and it finishes off nicely the edge there, looking a little bit like how we started with here. So this is the start. You can see that there's no gap there, and this is what it's looking like on the end. So it's nice and even all the way through. And what I'm going to do with my end bit is I do one last yarn over and pull through, so one last chain, because then when I cut my yarn, I give myself enough to sew in. When I cut my yarn, that bit there has created enough a loop. If you cut it straight away and pull, you'll undo your work. If you create one more chain, your yarn over and pull through, you can then pull your hook out with your thread, give that a tug, and you've made a knot and you've tied it off. So I'll just clear this last bit of yarn that I have left over out of the way, and then I will give you a look. So I'm just going to zoom my camera out a little bit so you can see a little bit more of it. So this is how it is all finished. Obviously we've got all of the ends. Some people sew them in as I go. If I've got a big project, I'll sew them in as I go, because staring at hundreds of threads at the ends are awful. But for just the odd couple like this, I just do it all in one go at the end. So I've got my start and my finish to do, as well as these colour changes in between. And then this is how it is looking. So I will catch you in a second once I've sewn my ends in. We'll have one final look with all of the pieces sewn in and the completely finished project, and I will catch you in a second once I've done it. So this is it all finished now. As you can see, all the ends have been sewn in. There's no strands sticking out anywhere. I have also blocked it, so it's all flat on the edges. None of the edges curl up now. And this is what it looks like, going from the purple to the pink to the blue, green, yellow, orange and the red to finish off with. and this is how it's come out. I'm really pleased with it. It's come out really nice. It's, you know, nice and soft cotton, so it's going to be great for face wash. I am actually going to be gifting mine to my daughter because it's a rainbow, so if I don't give it to her, then I'll just be in trouble for that, because she's 6 and everything has to be rainbow in her life. So this is it. This is what it's come out like. Any questions, comments, anything you want to ask, anything that springs to mind, any future ideas, pop them down in the comments below. And as always, take care, look after yourselves and everyone around you. I will catch you in the next video. So thank you for joining me on this TCAL, Tunisian Crochet Along, and I will see you later.